All right, so thank you so much for joining me this evening for our Planning on a Great School Year workshop. Items before we begin, please stay muted when not speaking to help with background noise, but feel free to use the chat box at any time with any questions or comments that you may have. I'm also going to have time set aside at the end for a Q&A. We are recording this session, and just as a disclaimer, none of the information provided today is intended as legal or medical advice. My name is Melissa Carrillo, and I'm an education family specialist with Parents Reaching Out. So just a really brief background of our organization. We began in 1980 with about 10 to 15 parents around a kitchen table. Each parent had a child with a disability, and they were all looking for support and information. And it was a small group of parents that decided they wanted to form an organization that could help other families who were in similar situations. The mission of Parents Reaching Out is to enhance positive outcomes for families and children in New Mexico through informed decision-making, advocacy, education, and resources. We provide networking opportunities for families to connect with and support each other. Our mission supports all families, including those who have children with disabilities and others who are disenfranchised. We achieve our mission by developing family leadership, developing family connections, building collaborative partnerships, and providing families with knowledge and tools to enhance their power. We have 4 different programs at Parents Reaching Out, which include early childhood, where we support families of infants and toddlers from birth to 3 years old who are at risk for or have developmental delays, disabilities, or medical conditions. We offer resources to families and provide opportunities for families to connect with each other. We collaborate with early intervention providers for the families they serve in providing resources and provide advocacy trainings. And we also offer support and resources to families with children in the neonatal intensive care unit at UNM Hospital. Next, we have our education program, where we help families, youth, and professionals gain skills and knowledge that they may need to support growth and learning. We offer information, resources, and workshops regarding the IEP process, parental involvement, self-advocacy, transitions, Section 504, behavior plans and assessments, and dispute resolution. Next, we have our healthcare program, where it's our goal to help families understand their rights and become informed about topics such as health insurance, Medicaid, supplemental security income, and home and community-based waivers. And last, we have our family leadership and advocacy program, where we help individuals become leaders and advocates in their own communities. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and type into the chat if you are attending today as a parent, educator, or both, and then also what you're hoping to learn from today's workshop. All right, thank you, Denise. And it's not really letting me go to my chat. There it is. So we are going to be learning how to introduce your child to the staff that they're going to be working with at their school by creating a student snapshot. We're also going to discuss strategies to prepare for a great school year. We're going to talk about effective communication strategies and why it's important to utilize that. And then we're going to talk about ideas to bring forth about family engagement in school and home. So think back to your personal experience in school. Type into the chat, was it positive or was it negative? Parents play a critical role in shaping their child's attitude about learning in school and how they connect to teachers and peers. So it's especially important that we try to model a positive attitude towards education. So think about the future that you want for your child. What does it look like? What are your hopes for this school year? What are your child's hopes for this school year? Do you want them to have friends? Do you want them to be in an inclusive environment? Maybe to start thinking about going to college. So keeping those things in mind will help you to set your child up for success. So really quickly, go ahead and type into the chat. What are your hopes for your child for this school year? And I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. Hi, Rosa. Motivation to go. That's a good one. We're going to be talking about strategies to hopefully help with motivation. Yeah, that can be tough for kids sometimes. I think a lot of kids. Right. So, as the expert on your child, you, the parent, have valuable information to share with the people that will interact with your child during the school day. Your child is way more than his or her label or disability or need. They have so many things to offer everyone that they come in contact with. Sharing the positives are a great way to open discussions with the teacher around interests that are not always due or related to their needs or disabilities. And you can share this information with your child's school staff by creating a student snapshot. And this is a really great way that you can share about your child without sharing specific confidential information. Your teacher could leave this in a binder for maybe the substitute teacher, and you don't have to be concerned with FERPA privacy being violated. So I'm going to show you a few examples of different tools that you can use to do this in the next few slides. So this is a student snapshot, and I will be emailing this to you after the workshop. Some things that you might want to include while you're creating your student snapshot can be your child's strengths and interests, their likes and dislikes, just important things that the staff should know, important health information, maybe their eligibility criteria, if they have a favorite subject in school, their academic and functional goals, their accommodations and modifications, and schedule of services. So we're going to kind of focus a little bit about the IEP related stuff. So the accommodations and modifications, schedule of services. Sometimes at the beginning of the school year, teachers don't always have access to the IEP right away. I know there were many years when I was teaching that either the school maybe started utilizing a new program for IEPs, it just wasn't up and running like on the first day of school. So sometimes teachers don't even have access to that. So if you provide them with that information on day one, it's really, really helpful. And then even just providing information about their strengths and interests. What do they like to do? What do they dislike doing? This is really good information for the staff to know as well, because it can help to motivate them in their learning. They can use the information that they give them to maybe create lessons and just to create that motivation for them. This is a student profile. It's another example of just another way that you can share about your child. You might want to get your child involved in creating this with you. So be creative, make it work for you and your child. You can share this with anyone that works with your child. So not only their teachers, but substitutes, therapists, staff, coaches. Um, it would be really useful for like substitute teachers or the other staff that doesn't necessarily have access to the IEP to really get to know your child. So this one comes from Teachers Pay Teachers, and there's just a live link on the bottom. So I'll be sending you the presentation after. So you could just click on that if you like this one. And if you want to utilize it, you'll have access to it. This is a student profile. Typically, we use this in helping older children to prepare for their IEPs, and this is completed by the student. So it can also be used at the beginning of the year as a way to introduce themselves to the staff that will be working with them. So if you have older children, this is a good one to use because they get to fill it out themselves. Just some things that you might want to include whenever you're working with your child to fill out the student profile. They could include things like what do they want their future to look like? What kind of job would they like to have? Do they participate in the community? What do they want to do for recreation and leisure? What kind of school or training do they need to meet their goals? What kind of independent living skills do they have? What are their strengths and interests? And what skills do you need to work on? So this is really good to use when you are working on those self-advocacy skills, again, because it's completed by the student. This is a parent report. So we usually use this whenever we are helping families prepare for IEP meetings. But again, you can just use it at the beginning of the year if you like this form better than the other ones that I showed you. So you would just include your hopes and dreams and goals for your child. You can think about this upcoming school year. So what are you hoping for this school year? Or you can even think long term. You would list your child's strengths and positive points. Share any issues or challenging areas for your child. What do they like to do at home? What don't they like to do? What helps motivate them? Do they like to play with others or do they prefer to play by themselves? What kind of positive reinforcement do you use at home? So again, sharing this information with your child's teacher can be really important to help them to know how to work with your child better and how to motivate them. Right, so out of all of those options that we just went over, so the student snapshot, we had the parent report that we just viewed, the student profile where the student gets to fill it out themselves, which tool did you like best and why? Go ahead and type that into the chat, or if you feel comfortable unmuting, you can go ahead and do that. Rosa, I'm gonna pick on you. If you wanna, while everyone's typing, if you wanna unmute and share which tool you like to use.
Well, depending on the situation, I like using both the parent and the student profile. But I, of course, make it my own way. But those two have been very valuable for me, especially when meeting with teachers in the beginning, of the school year, so that they could at least get some specifics as to what my child needs and what specifically, are the accommodations and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Karen says that she loves the student one, so they have a voice. Yeah, I really like that one too. And then, especially thinking about those self-advocacy skills, it really helps to develop that. I remember one year that I was teaching, I received a student snapshot. I think it was like the student snapshot one. And I loved it. It showed me that the parent was really involved with their child. It gave me information that I wouldn't know otherwise about the student. And it happened to be one of those years where the school had just introduced like a new system for IEPs, and I didn't have access to like the IEP yet. So it was really, really useful. All right, so we are going to talk about communication strategies. Something that you might want to consider when preparing for the upcoming school year is reviewing effective communication strategies. This is so important. So whether you are a parent, a student, or staff, it is crucial to use effective communication to create positive relationships between home and school. So on your screen, there's just a few examples of some strategies that you might want to use, and then there's some examples of potential barriers. So some strategies that you might want to consider using will include listening messages. So nonverbal language. So that's body language. So go ahead and type into the chat what comes to mind when you think of nonverbal language. So body language, your tone of voice, maybe, the expressions that you use on your face. We want to be really aware of what we're doing. And then our verbal language. So the emotional aspect of words, sometimes it's hard to hear or talk about a particular subject. So know that it's okay, but acknowledge that it's difficult. And this will allow the speaker to recognize that you're trying and having a hard time with the content. Practice reflective listening. So doing things like paraphrasing and summarizing. This is really important. So you can use a speaker's own words when you're paraphrasing or summarizing. Sometimes the speaker meant something different, and when restated back to them, their own words can reflect a different meaning than intended. Always try to use open-ended questions. This provides the opportunity for more clarification and it leaves out the assumption of meaning factor. So for example, can you explain what you meant by, whatever you would like clarified? Or if there's something that you don't understand, especially if you're attending an IEP meeting, sometimes we use a lot of acronyms and just different verbiage that we don't typically use every day. Ask those open-ended questions and ask for clarification on whatever you need explained. Some potential barriers that you want to avoid. So stress can cause us to react or feel a certain way without even recognizing it. So if you feel yourself getting stressed or emotional when communicating between home and school, know how you want to handle that stress. Go ahead and type into the chat if you can think of something that helps you to deal with your stress, especially during conversations, maybe like deep breathing. That's something that works for me, just taking a breath and thinking so that I don't react, but rather respond. Whenever we react, that can just be emotional, chaotic. Whenever we respond, it's intelligent. And we have intent. So writing it out before saying it, that's a really good strategy to use as well, Karen. Avoid using attacking words, so interrogating, criticizing, blaming, or shaming the other party. Avoid using you messages. So saying things like you don't understand what I go through. Avoid using power words. This is ordering, threatening, or commanding. And then again, just be very aware of your nonverbal language, so your body language and your expressions. So go ahead and type into the chat, why do you think it's important to utilize effective communication between home and school? So why would it be important to use effective communication? Or how do you think that would help your child? And then Rosa, I'm going to call on you again while everybody is typing.
So to answer the question on why it's important, yeah, I think effective communication can limit a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication, because you're being clear and upfront with what you're feeling. You're doing it in a respectful manner, and I think it also helps you to develop that relationship between you and the school, which is so important.
Yeah, that is. And then I'm seeing in the chat, Karen said consistency for the student. So yeah, that's a good point. And then we're modeling those effective communication strategies for our kids. And it goes both ways. So, from everybody should be using those effective communication strategies, whether you're a family, whether you're a student, or whether you're staff. And then Denise says, my son and I say a funny word to break the tension in a disagreement, and we end up laughing before we come to an agreement. That's really good. I like that one, Denise. Okay. So next, we're just going to talk about just strategies that you can use to prepare for the upcoming school year. And these strategies that we're going to talk about first are geared towards elementary school students. So you might want to visit the school, especially if your child is feeling a little bit apprehensive, maybe they're a little nervous. I think that going back to school is a big deal, right? We should acknowledge that it's a big adjustment. So you might want to plan a visit to the school before. You can meet the teacher. Maybe they can take you on a classroom tour. They can talk to you about what they're going to be teaching you this upcoming school year. You can go on a tour of the school. One of our colleagues says that she likes to have dry runs for going to school. So she'll practice like getting up and getting ready, actually driving over to the school and all of that. And that's what helps. So communicate with your child's teacher as well, especially if they're feeling nervous. That would be good information to share with their teacher. Inform the nurse or your teacher of any allergies or special needs, medical conditions that your child might have. Try to become part of the school community. Try to set clear bedtime and morning routines so that your child has an easier time adjusting. You might want to consider start phasing out nap time just depending on your child's age. Think about if they're going to be getting naps at school. So you might want to communicate with the school about that, because if they're used to getting a nap and then maybe they're not going to get one during the school day, that could be a difficult adjustment for them. Talk to your child, ask them about how they're feeling about the transition back to school. Make sure that you validate those feelings and try to make it really positive and get them excited about going back. Always read together with your child. That's going to help them. Try to introduce them to new friends if you can. And always remind them of their strengths and be positive and supportive. So on this slide, we just have a few strategies for middle school students. Middle school is important because your child is laying the foundation in a lot of subjects and forming study habits. So help your child to set goals for the year that will help them to stay motivated and focused. And then you might want to review them periodically. Like if they're starting to like lack some motivation, you can review the goals with them. This is something that I personally do with my kids, even like elementary kids. So we'll just talk about what we want to do this school year. Like, what do we want to focus on? So think about your child. What's something that you think would be motivating for them to set as a goal? Review their goals and accommodations from their IEP with them so that they're aware of what goals, their accommodations and modifications, and even their schedule of services that they're supposed to receive. It's going to help them to develop those self-advocacy skills. And it can even help the school stay on track with the services that they're supposed to be providing. You might want to review the school calendar together and note important dates. You could even note and point out like the breaks that they're going to have if you need something to kind of motivate them a little bit. Like, okay, we're going to work really hard for this, for these few weeks, and then look, you get a break right here. Talk about extracurricular activities to identify their interests and to help them feel more engaged in school. Try to encourage them to take on new challenges. Try to come up with fun reading ideas and start practicing different life skills. All right, and we're going to talk a few strategies for high school students. So again, setting those goals for the year. They don't have to be related to the IEP, it could just be personal goals that you want to set for the year. Again, discuss their accommodations, modifications, or schedule of services with them so they're able to self-advocate. Explore different course options that are offered through the school. Try to practice time management. This is especially important in middle school and high school because they have several different class changes and a lot of things that they're going to be juggling. If you haven't already, try to use summer to prepare for classes or state tests. Try to work on organizational skills and procrastination. So just reinforcing this at home can really help them in their school day. It's always a good idea to plan a visit to nearby colleges together. This can be very motivating for them. You can point out different things that the colleges offer to see if they're interested in any of those things, or if you know that your child is interested in a certain subject, you can show them or take them to a college that specializes in those areas. And then become familiar with your transition team and community resources. So just some tips for preparing for the transition into adulthood. Keep in mind that once your child turns 18, they're going to be responsible for making their educational decisions. So if that's not something that's already kind of in the back of your mind, just think about it. If you feel like they need additional support, if you want to still continue to be like included and as involved as you already are in their IEPs, start thinking about things like guardianship and just different things like that. So just keep it in mind. Be present and participate in IEP meetings. Always ask questions. understand the graduation path options. We offer a workshop on that where we can explain to you the different graduation path options. Familiarize yourself with community-based programs and supports. So, organizations like the Adult Center, Community Education and Support Services, Project Search, Community Transition to Adulthood Program, and the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation are all great resources. Okay. So make sure that for this upcoming school year, you set realistic expectations. So your child doesn't develop rapport and relationship with the teacher immediately. It takes some time for them to learn and grow with each other. Just like it takes you time to become familiar and comfortable with your child's teacher and to develop that trust. So if your child has an IEP, 504 plan, behavior plan in place, understand that it's going to take some time, and getting back on schedule with a regular day can be difficult. So does fully implementing the plan. So give your teacher and your child some time to work through their new relationship as you work through your new relationship with your school team as well. Working closely with the school and your IEP or 504 team will give your child the best chance at being the most successful. So even when progress is slow, be sure to celebrate the small achievements along the way and the efforts that your child is making towards success, because that's what really matters, right? Is the progress that they're making. And remember that teachers are human too. Always celebrate big and small achievements along the way. And remember that teamwork equals dreamwork. So we want to make sure that we have good relationships between home and school. All right, so we're going to talk a few strategies about preparing your child emotionally about returning back to school. Some different things that you can do are role play. So you can use like stuffed animals, dolls, different things like that. Just role play different scenarios about returning back to school. You want to stay positive about it and make it sound like it's going to be a lot of fun. Try to encourage new friendships or relationships, and then just understand some kids, prefer to play by themselves. So really just know your child and what works for them. Plan ahead again to alleviate worry. So we talked about doing like dry runs, um, touring the school, meeting the teacher ahead of time can be really helpful. Talk about concerns that your child has with them. Be sure to check in with them throughout the school year. Be present and consistent, and stay flexible and adaptable. We're going to talk a few strategies about presenting your child or preparing your child socially. So try to build a sense of community. Assess their social and emotional needs. And then you can just kind of use that to come up with like a plan for what they need or what you feel is best for them. Always try to reinforce self-regulation skills, teach effective stress management techniques. So like deep breathing, different yoga stretches, things like that. Um, Always talk about diversity and empathy. So talk to your child about that. Tell them what it means to be a good friend. Try to promote responsible decision making. Establish a sense of belonging and connection, such as creating a bond with peers and educators to build relationships. And then if your child is really struggling socially, or you feel like they need extra support, maybe they have a lot of anxiety about returning back to school, you can always partner with different mental health professionals, even out of the school, to help with that. So self-advocacy is so important. It's the ability to speak up for yourself and things that are important to you. So parents can encourage your child to practice this skill for themselves by communicating their needs in and out of the classroom. So we want to make sure that we encourage that communication. Tell your child not to be afraid to ask for help or to ask questions. You can have your child practice in leading their own IEP meetings, and this can help have an ownership, help them have an ownership of their future. And then it's always a good idea to have them step out of their comfort zone a little bit and try new things. So there are several benefits to self-advocacy, such as being able to make your own decisions, gaining self-confidence and self-respect, building relationships, learning to properly express your needs to achieve goals, experiencing teamwork, and developing conflict resolution and creative problem-solving skills. All right, so those of you that are in attendance, go ahead and type into the chat, or if you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself as well, but share an example of a time where your child practiced self-advocacy skills, or if you are attending as a professional, when is a time where you saw one of your students practicing self-advocacy skills? And I'll give you guys a few minutes to get that into the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. So we had someone that typed into the chat that in therapy sessions, students were able to draw cards and role play scenarios, and it helped them to practice their self-advocacy skills. So that's really good. So are you attending at, Karen, are you a professional? Or are you
Yes,
attending as a, oh, okay.
yes, yes. I'm an occupational therapist and a special ed teacher, and
Oh,
so I do a lot of stuff with kids with sensory needs, and so some of the scenarios that we role play is having to do around when they feel overstimulated and how they can advocate for themselves by saying, "Hey, I need to wear these headphones," or "I need a break," and being able to practice that instead of acting out. So
yeah.
that's some role playing that we used to do.
Yeah, very cool. That's a really good activity to practice. I know as a teacher, Um, I remember some of my students would just feel comfortable enough and they would say, I'm feeling really anxious or whatever, I need a break. Or the students that knew like their accommodations, if they had different accommodations on their IEP and they started to feel like they needed a break or whatever, they would express that. Someone else typed into the chat that their son voiced to his doctor that he felt he needed an increase of his medication. So that's really good self-advocacy. So thank you both. Okay, so if you do become concerned about your child, either academically, socially, throughout the school year, you want to rule out any potential medical reasons. So have you taken your child to the doctors to rule out any hearing or vision problems that could be impacting them? Have you talked with their teacher about their concerns or the principal? You might want to consider extra support. So is there tutoring offered after school? Can the teacher offer extra support? And then do you as the parent understand the concepts that are being taught? So sometimes if you don't understand, it can make things a little bit difficult, like to help your child with homework. It's always okay to ask the teacher to provide you with some instructions on how to teach concepts and lessons as well. Try to become familiar with the grade level expectations. You can access the New Mexico Common Core grade level standards um, online, and I'm going to be providing you guys with a link to that in case you're curious as to what your child's going to be learning this school year. Always be sure that you review the student and school behavior manual or code of conduct. If your child is not yet receiving special education services, but they're struggling, You can always ask for a referral to the SAT team, or you could even just ask for an initial evaluation to see if your child qualifies for any additional services. A little fun goes a long way. So sometimes we get caught up in analyzing what's going on with our kids, their learning or their behavior. And we're always trying to help them grow or modify it. And they get a lot of that in school. And just like us as adults, kids need a little downtime as well. So try to take a break from schoolwork occasionally to just enjoy life. You could take a walk with them, play a game, bake some cookies, whatever you and your family like to do together. So fun's a really important part of every child's life and yours too. So don't forget to do what you like to do also. And again, I want to just reemphasize, celebrate their growth and their successes along the way, even if it's just small growths. So there are a lot of different benefits to having fun. It helps develop motor skills, builds self-esteem, stimulates emotional growth and development. It strengthens family bonds, develops positive behaviors, and creates happy memories. So each year, the focus at the beginning of the year is always on your child. We're thinking about their grades, their IEPs, therapies, goals, modifications, activities, doctor's visits, events, etc. So it's only fitting that someone acknowledges the great work that you do as their parent and the great work that you do on behalf of your child. So give yourself the credit that you deserve. You're doing great work. On behalf of your child, you demonstrate patience and resilience. You take the lead in supporting your child. You make valuable contributions to your child's education. You are so important. Your child knows this and thanks you for it. All right, you guys. So I'm going to stop the recording. And then if anyone has any questions, now would be a good time to ask.